Let's bring in Congressman Trey Gowdy, a top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, which this week found no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia to influence the 2016 election. Congressman, I want to begin by getting your reaction to President Trump's lawyer calling for Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, to end the Mueller investigation. Do you support that?
I don't, and I think the president's attorney, frankly, does him a disservice when he says that and when he frames the investigation that way. Chris, if you look at the jurisdiction for Robert Mueller, first and foremost, what did Russia do to this country in 2016? That is supremely important, and it has nothing to do with collusion. So to suggest that Mueller should shut down and that all he is looking at is collusion, if you have an innocent client, Mr. Dowd, act like it. Russia attacked our country. Let Special Counsel Mueller figure that out. And if you believe, as we found, there's no evidence of collusion, you should want Special Counsel Mueller to take all the time and have all the independence he needs to do his job.
But, Congressman, it does not appear that John Dowd, the president's lawyer, is freelancing, is going off by himself here. The president has been on a tweet storm this morning. I just want to put up one of his latest tweets, and for the first time he's going after Mueller by name. Here it is. Why does the Mueller team have 13 hardened Democrats, some big crooked Hillary supporters, and 0 Republicans? Another Dem recently added, does anyone think this is fair? And yet there is no collusion. Questions are, do you think that the gloves are off, that the president and his legal team are now moving against the Mueller investigation? And if they go from tweets to actual effort, actual actions to try to stop the Mueller investigation, what will you and other top Republicans in Congress do?
Well, I hope that's not what's happening. I mean, this is the same Bob Mueller that just indicted, what, a dozen Russians for interfering with our election in 2016. My advice to the president is the same thing I just told his lawyer. Give Bob Mueller the time, the independence, and the resources to do the very job. Keep in mind, Chris, he didn't volunteer for this. He didn't start waving his hand and say, hey, picked me. A Trump-nominated Rod Rosenstein is who picked Bob Mueller. So give him the time, the resources, the independence to do his job. And when you are innocent, if the allegation is collusion with the Russians, and there is no evidence of that, and you're innocent of that, act like it.
But if I may, sir, again, there seems to be a concerted effort by the president and his lawyer to go after the Mueller investigation. If they try to shut it down, what will you and other Republicans in Congress do?
Well, I'm not sure the House can do a lot. We don't have advice and consent. I think the president's going to have a really difficult time nominating and having approved another attorney general. It's going to be I would just counsel the president, it's going to be a very, very long, bad 2018. And it's going to be distracting from other things that he wants to do and was elected to do. Let it play out its course. If you've done nothing wrong, you should want the investigation to be as fulsome and thorough as possible.
Now, Andrew McCabe, the former deputy FBI director who was fired late Friday night, says the reason that he was fired was to undercut his credibility as a potential witness in the Mueller investigation. I want to put up some of Andrew McCabe's statement. This attack on my credibility is one part of a larger effort, not just to slander me personally, but to taint the FBI, law enforcement, and intelligence professionals more generally. It is part of this administration's ongoing war on the FBI and the efforts of the special counsel's investigation, which continue to this day. Congressman, your response.
Oh, Andy McCabe has undercut his credibility all by himself. He didn't need any help doing that. And I find it richly ironic that he is lamenting that those are attacking the FBI when he himself does the exact same thing. It was the FBI who said he made an unauthorized disclosure and then lied about it. That wasn't President Trump. It wasn't me. It wasn't the crazy House Republicans. It was his own fellow FBI agents that said he leaked and then lied about it. So if he's got credibility issues, he needs to look no further than himself.
I just want to go on one point. And look, leaking is improper, and lack of candor, some would call it lying, to investigators, especially under oath, is inexcusable and should be held to account. But my guess is most people would think that what Andy McCabe was involved with leaking was something against the Trump administration. My guess is most people don't know that, in fact, what he asked, he didn't actually leak. He apparently authorized an official to talk to a reporter about was the fact that the FBI wanted to pursue the Clinton Foundation investigation over the objections of the Justice Department.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you look at his statement, he was really upset that he was being blamed for ending something. And the interesting part of his statement, which I hadn't heard a lot of people talk about, is that he was really blaming DOJ. The Department of Justice is who shut down the investigation. But you know what, Chris? We don't live in a relativistic world, and you don't get to pick and choose which rules to abide by, and you don't get to decide when to tell the truth and when not to. I'm going to withhold judgment until Horowitz's report comes out because I don't know precisely what he found.
We should just say Horowitz is the Inspector General.
Right, who, 2 weeks ago the president was criticizing, and now all of a sudden McCabe is criticizing, so he probably is doing his job because everyone's criticizing him. Let's wait and see what he found. Let's wait and see what that lack of candor was, and then we can judge the fact pattern and the proportionality of the penalty of his losing his pension. We can judge all that once we understand exactly what he's alleged to have done. But make no mistake, the FBI is who recommended that he be fired. It wasn't crazy House Republicans, and it wasn't the Trump administration. It was his own fellow bureau agents.
Point well taken. All of this, Congressman, comes on the same week that the House Intelligence Committee, on which you're a prominent member, basically ended your investigation of Russian collusion. I want to put up one of the key conclusions from Republican members of your committee. We have found no evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. GOP members also said that while they believe the Russians meddled in the campaign, they did not believe, in fact, they broke with the intelligence community's conclusion that this was an effort by the Russians to benefit the Trump campaign. Question, what's the basis for your conclusion, and you, I say collectively, Republicans on the committee, what's the basis for the conclusion, case closed?
Well, the basis for the conclusion, case closed on no evidence of collusion, is that we've interviewed north of 70 witnesses. And Chris, I personally have asked every one of them, give me any bit of evidence you have, regardless of whether you believe it and regardless of the source, that President Trump colluded, conspired, coordinated with the Russians. And not a single witness, from Susan Rice to Ben Rhodes to Donald Trump Jr. to Jared Kushner, no one has any evidence. I mean, folks who are sympathetic to the president and folks who are antagonistic to the president, not one scintilla of evidence of coordination, collusion, conspiracy between Trump and his campaign and the Russians. So I can't tell you what I don't know. I can just tell you I asked every single witness, and every single witness, including former Obama administration officials, had no evidence of collusion.
But here's the one question I have about this, Congressman. I want to put up some of the people that you and members of your committee never had a chance to talk to. Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos. These are some of the central figures in the Mueller investigation. So without having spoken to them, how can you conclude that there was no collusion?
Well, we can't talk to them. They're all under indictment and or have pled guilty, which is why I say there is no evidence. I can't tell you what 4 people I haven't talked to are going to say, but Chris, I can't talk to them. They have a Fifth Amendment right not to talk to Congress. I mean, Steve Bannon's not under indictment and he didn't talk to Congress. So, look, there are lots of things to blame Congress for, but us not knowing what people who won't talk to us are saying should not be one of them. I don't know what Mueller has found, and I've been really clear, leave him alone. Let him do his job. I can tell you within the universe of folks that we've interviewed, there is no evidence of collusion. That's the best I can do. I can't tell you what people I haven't talked to would say.
Here's my only point about this, is that the president is using the House Intelligence Committee's findings in effect as grist, as a defense to say that there was no collusion. And what you're admitting is that there were a lot of key members to this investigation who you've never talked to. So your conclusion is not conclusive.
Well, that's why I always say based on the evidence. And you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what witnesses you haven't talked to or documents you haven't seen. Look, I'm disappointed that Steve Bannon would sit there and be interviewed by a salacious book author, but he wouldn't answer our questions. I'm frustrated by that, but executive branch investigations have more credibility, they have more tools, and that's what I think my fellow citizens ought to be waiting for and have confidence in, not congressional investigations that are run by guys running for the Senate in California who've never met a camera that they didn't fall in love with. That's what you should not have confidence in. Have confidence in the executive branch investigations, and if Mueller finds stuff, more power to him. But the best I can do is interview the people in front of me and ask all relevant questions, and no one has said that there was collusion.
I want to bring up one final point. President Trump this week finally imposed sanctions against Russia for meddling in the 2016 election. This after, and I know you voted for it, Congress approved sanctions back last summer, and in fact, the president didn't even impose all of the sanctions that all of you in Congress did authorize him, give him the opportunity to use back last summer. Do you think the president has stood up, has taken action against Vladimir Putin, or do you wish he had been tougher to him?
I think he's done a hell of a lot better job than President Obama did. It wasn't Donald Trump who laughed when Mitt Romney said Russia was our #1 geopolitical enemy, and it wasn't President Trump who handed that awkward reset button to the Russians, and it wasn't President Trump who said on a hot mic, I'll have more flexibility in his second term. All of that was President Obama. So this country can't be tough enough on Russia. They tried to interfere with the fundamentals of our democracy. I mean, their war is not against Democrats or Republicans, it's against Americans. So you cannot be tough enough against Russia, in my judgment. I hope he does more, but he did a hell of a lot more than his predecessor did.
Congressman Gowdy, thank you. Thanks for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, sir.